So are you sick of firefighting in your business and being stuck among the weeds? What do we mean by that? What does firefighting mean? Well, does it seem like you're doing everything and is everyone throwing everything upon you so that they can't do anything themselves? They're always relying on you to have to sort things out. Well, if that's the case, as it is for so many construction business owners, you're really going to enjoy this podcast with my guest, Barbara Nixon. Is an author. She wrote a book called The Boss Hat: How to Become a Better Leader. Barbara is a leadership development coach, and she really has a passion for helping leaders overcome the common pitfalls like firefighting. She's also been featured on the BBC Woman's Hour. So I think you're going to find this podcast really interesting. If you want to get out of firefighting and become a better leader, this is the podcast for you. So let's have a listen. Barbara, great to have you on the show.
I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me, Greg.
Appreciate you joining us. So really interesting subject that we're going to be discussing today, because I think this is going to resonate with so many construction business owners. And that's one of the problem of firefighting in business. What a problem that is for not just construction business owners, all industries. People get stuck doing things that they don't want to be doing. So we're going to delve into what that is and how we can overcome that. But let's just first of all learn a little bit about you, Barbara. Tell us a little bit about what you're currently working on and what got you into this.
Yeah, so I'm a success and leadership coach. I work with execs and managing directors and business leaders. And I've been in the people development and leadership space for, I think it's about 27 years now. So nearly 3 decades, pretty much all of my career. And one thing that I support them with is to help them do exactly what we've been talking about: get out of the weeds, sidestep things like self-doubt, fear of failure, anything really that stops them in their tracks from actually achieving the results that they want. And by results that they want, I mean both in and out of work, because one thing I'm a massive believer of is how you do one thing is how you do everything. And sometimes what happens in work is it has a ripple effect and can really affect how you manage your life outside and your relationships as well. So yeah, I've been in this space, as I said, for 3 decades, and I've seen so many leaders fall into this trap of just getting stuck in the weeds. And it feels as though you're just treading water, that you're always having to be available, and it can feel like you just can't get out of it. And so that's really where I've kind of focused my attention.
Hey, can I just ask a quick favor? We're constantly trying to bring on the best guests on this podcast so we can deliver as much value as possible. But the only way we can do that is if we get more subscribers, more likes, more comments, and more reviews. So subscribe to this channel and click notifications so you know every time we've got a new video coming up. Give us a review if you're getting any value from it, and give us a thumbs up. We'd really appreciate that. Yeah, great. So let's just dive into that just to make sure we're talking about a subject that everyone can relate to. What does it mean to be stuck in the weeds and firefight? And what's the typical scenarios that will happen to a business owner?
Oh, geez, so many. So it can be feeling available all the time. Often what happens is I see business leaders that have grown their business to a level where they've now got a team, but they're still trying to manage it in a way that they did when they first started. So rolling the sleeves up, getting stuck in, being the person that has to solve the problems, which is great when you first started your business, because obviously there's no way around that. It's only you or just a very small number of people. But as your business expands, if you don't shift those habits, that can continue, and you can inadvertently then train your team for you to be that fix-it person, for you to be the go-to person. So you can end up being on your phone 24/7. Literally, I've seen that happen. You can end up being in all the meetings. You can end up being the person that will solve all the problems. And although that's great to start with, you think that that's you're helping people, you think that that's your job, you think that's your role, everything actually revolves around you. Unfortunately, what that does is it has a massive effect on you, because we can't sustain that. We're not robots, you were just a person. But also it can really limit the growth of your business, because you've no time to actually focus on the things that will really move the needle for you. And you're surrounded by a team that's probably quite disempowered, because they're capable. You've hired them for a reason. They're capable of doing things, but they're in this habit, this mentality of, oh, I've got to go speak to you. You've got to sort things out. I've got to run things past you. And it can
Yeah.
affect their confidence as well, and your retention. You could potentially start to lose some really good people.
Yeah, really interesting. So I can really relate to this because I remember I did an apprenticeship with my dad in construction, and he was a real grafter, real worker. But if anyone didn't do anything the right way, or they were being a little bit lazy or too slow about how they did something, he would straight away jump in and go, right, no, this is how you do it. And he'd push them out the way, and then he'd get it done themselves. And it was almost to prove that this is how quick you should do it, and this is how you should do it, and I know best. And what ends up happening is in the end, you just know that he's going to do it better than you. So you go, well, go on then. You like, I'll let you step in and you can deal with it then. And I can see, interestingly enough, how that started to affect the way I became a leader and a manager when I started running my businesses. I sort of had a very similar attitude as that, let me just show you how to do this. And I think one of the dangers of many construction business owners is that you can become a little bit controlling, can't you? And micromanaging. And because it's your baby and you want it done the right way, you end up just doing everything. And it's
Yeah.
so dangerous, isn't it, going forward? So let's just talk about the dangers of that then. If you do resonate with this and someone's listening to this podcast and they think, yeah, that's me,
Yeah.
I'm firefighting. What is it pointing to you as a leader? What areas are maybe personality flaws, or what different areas are they really going to have to start looking at and working on as a business owner?
First of all, if you can resonate, if you are listening, you can resonate. I just want you to give yourself some grace, because it actually does mean that you've grown your business to a different level, which is great. And that you are actually just trying to grow your business and lead in a way that you think that's right. So there's really nothing wrong with the mentality behind that. However, it's a massive big signpost that things need to change, because you cannot carry on.
Mm.
So in terms of what the dangers are, like I said earlier, it can have a massive effect on your team. It can have a huge effect on your health. It can have an effect on your personal life. I've worked with people that have said to me, yeah, this is all great, and I know that I'm doing it for the right reasons. However, I haven't hung out with my kids at the weekend. I haven't gone out with my wife or my partner or anybody. I haven't seen my friends. I've not done anything where I can really switch off, and I'm starting to flag. And that's then feeding back into my business because I'm not inspired. I'm starting to fall out of love with it. And
Mm.
you can't grow from that place. There's no growth when you're literally stuck in that place.
Yeah.
So the only way out is to start to step back without, you don't have to step back fully. I'm not talking about exiting from the business. I'm talking about just stepping back so that you can start to, it's almost elevating, you level it up so you can see your business from a different perspective.
Yeah, that's a really good thing to talk about there. So it's having that space, yeah, to get back and just see what's going on. It's so interesting there because I get different clients that I work with, and I speak to a lot of construction business owners and builders, and what they'll often come to me is a few different problems. Some will be, oh, I'm not making enough money, and some will be this or that. But the number one frustration I think has got to be I'm doing everything in the business and I'm getting sick of it because I've just got no time and I can't think, and I'm so overwhelmed that I don't even know what direction to go in now. And when we show them a little bit of a roadmap, that's like, oh wow, there's a little bit of clarity there, but it's quite straightforward really, but they just haven't got that time to just step back and say, oh okay, that's my next step. That's what I need to do. So
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think I really understand that. So let's imagine someone's listening to this. They clearly get that they've got a problem with this. They want to resolve it. What do you then encourage them to do? What are the next steps of how you become a better leader and step back from that firefighting?
Okay, so the first step that I always invite people to do is find that pocket of air. And this is probably the hardest thing, because you're fighting against a habit. Remember that the business is your baby, right? And at this point, you've been ingrained in it, you've been involved in it, and to step back out of it can feel really uncomfortable. It's almost like, hang on, can I really trust my team? Do they know what they're doing? Even though you secretly you do know that that's all right. But to find that pocket of air, because this helps you get out of that hamster wheel, just the notion of, oh, I need to find some space. So what I mean by pocket of air, it's a time that's just for you. So whatever your thing is, whether it's going for a run or whether it's, I don't know, some people like to just sit and, have a coffee and people watch, or it doesn't matter, I can literally talk about that forever, but find your thing. And again, so many people say to me, yeah, but my diary is chocker. How am I supposed to be able to do that? So what I'd say is just scroll forward in your diary for a bit, find the next space, find the next empty space that you've got, and book a meeting with yourself, and then make that a recurring meeting. And then that just becomes your pocket of air. And when my clients do this, they'll resist it and they'll fight against it, and then they'll go, oh, wow, why have I not been doing this earlier? Because it gives
Yeah.
you that clarity that you need, that headspace to just think differently. And you can start to either reflect on your business, or you can start to plan, or you can start to think strategically. It doesn't matter, because the ideas will pop into your head, but they can't do that whilst you're clogged up with doing other things. So that'd be the
Yeah.
very first step, to find that pocket of air. And it's not a weakness. It's not you being lazy. It's nothing to feel guilty about, even though guilt might actually pop up. It's actually a really good step in the right direction.
It's such a good suggestion, and I think that's great. Yeah, because that initial resistance is, oh, I've not got any time. But yeah, you're going to find something in a couple of weeks or wherever it is in your diary. So that's really, really valuable. And what do you recommend? How often is this done? For what length of time is this done for? Is this something that should be done, Monday to Friday, or is it a 5 minute thing, an hour thing? How
Yeah,
big should this be?
such good questions. And you know what? I'd say make it a non-negotiable for every day. Why not? You're the business leader. If you've got big ambitions and you want your business to grow, then that you deserve that time just to hit that reset button. And it doesn't have to be long. It could be 30 minutes. But the first thing that you do before you do anything that day is your pocket of air, and make that your time. And then as you get into the habit, and it's going to take a little bit of time to stop that, feeling of, oh, I should be doing something. Why am I not just rushing out the door and getting straight to work? But you can start to build on it and make it a little bit more meaningful. So once you've done something for you, then move on to, right, I'm going to start doing something for my business. That's when you sit down with your notepad and think, okay, what's on the agenda this week? What do I need to really be focusing on that will move the needle? And that's the question to keep asking yourself, because there's so many people, and I'm sure you can relate, Greg. There's so many people that I've seen that have got to-do lists as long as their arm, and there's stuff on there that would really catapult the business forward, but they're not actually adding any time to them. They're not focusing on those things, and they're the ones that just get shunted back. Shunted. Oh, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it later, until it gets urgent. But
Mm.
actually, if you really thought about it, they're the things that would shift your business to a completely different level and really move you forward. But you've just got into the habit of getting busy on the small stuff.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's interesting just to give a little bit of structure to that pocket of air then, because I think if I sat down and had a half-hour gap and I just sat there and thought, let's just, what am I doing? Like, and I'd have a blank sheet of paper in front of me, and I'll get bored and then think, right, let me just pick up the phone. So to have that structure is, I think, important. What can I do for myself? But then, yeah, what's really going to move the needle forward in the business? I think that helps some like myself who maybe are not very creative and and struggle with the silence,
Oh yeah,
which can be
that's
difficult.
why you have to do something for you first. So go for a run or whatever your thing is. So get out of your head, really. So go for that run. And then when you come back and you sat with that blank sheet of paper or your blank monitor, your laptop, and you're thinking, right, what do I do now? The question to always ask yourself is, right, what would, if I didn't have anything to do, what would actually move the needle for me for the business right now? So if I did one thing off my list, what would literally shift me forward? And it's often the thing, one, that you definitely been putting off. Two, it's going to take a little bit of time. These are not 2-minute jobs. And when we're busy, we automatically go to those 2-minute jobs, don't we? Just so we get that rush of crossing something off our list, that we feel productive during the day. But it's going to take a little bit of time, but they're the things to start, or at least get the balls in motion. And you might need to speak to different members of your team or whatever and get them involved, but they're the things to really start focusing on.
Yeah, and you can see once you start that and the momentum starts building,
Yeah,
that's gonna start working, especially if you're back sitting there again the next day and you're thinking,
exactly.
right, what did I take action on and what's the next step? So I really like that. I think that's a really valuable bit of advice there. So okay, we've created the pocket of air, we've got a
Yeah.
bit of space, we've got some things to do. What's next?
Right. So now we start to be a bit more discerning. It's about changing your habits with your team. So remember, as we're firefighting, historically our habit is to be involved in absolutely everything. So our team have got trained, and I'm using like, air quotations here, trained to come to you because you've inadvertently trained them to come to you for any particular problem. Now it's time to start nudging back and be a bit more discerning about what you get involved in. And it might be that before you do that, you have a conversation with your team so it doesn't become as a bit of a shock to them, and say, right, okay, I don't need to be at this meeting all the time, or you're fine with whatever it is that you're dealing with. I don't need to be involved, or if you've got any problems, then come to speak to me. But I trust you to get on with it. So it's just to realign expectations if you need to do that. But start to just hit the pause button before you jump into anything. So your example of your dad, of where somebody would be doing something and he'd like shove them out of the way and get cracking. That's an ideal time of you hitting the pause button, right? As going, oh, do I really need to be getting this person out of the way and getting my sleeves rolled up? Or can I just support them? Is there something else I can do? And that's where you can like coach them through it and say, yeah, you're doing a great job. Or what other ideas have you got? Or you're fine. You'll figure it out. I'll see you in 10 minutes. And this is definitely a case of short-term pain for long-term gain, because you're rewiring the habits for you and your team, and you're having to trust a lot more, which even though you probably do trust your team, it's a different level of trust.
Yeah, this is a really good point. And what's interesting is when I know in my businesses, when I've started to do this, you all of a sudden realize that you're not needed as much in your business at all, and actually people can get on with it, and they're pretty skilled and can do it absolutely fine if you
Yeah.
just empower people to do things. So I think sometimes it's in our own head, isn't it, that we're just a little bit scared. We think, oh, they're going to mess it up, or they need, like, I'm needed, when actually we're not
Yeah.
that
And
needed.
jump in. I just want to jump into what you said, because that's gold. That we kid ourselves that we're needed, that other people need us. And when we have that realization that our team can actually handle it, they're all right. They're really capable people. The business is in good hands. That can drive the fear of, hang on a minute, what do I do now?
Mm.
And I've had that conversation with so many people of, yeah, my team are on it. What's my job now? Yeah, what do I do? So it's working through that. So if that's popping up for you and you're thinking, yeah, great, my team are on it, but now I'm sat there, I don't need to be at those meetings that were taking up my time, and I'm not needed to fix everything. What do I do during my day? That's when things really get fun, because you're able to start doing the things to really move your business forward.
Yeah, that's really good. It's interesting. I don't know if you follow Tony Robbins at all, but one of the things he talks about is one of the human needs is significance, and how
Yeah.
we want to feel significance as people and business owners. And a lot of business owners have the need for significance. But when you start employing people, you just naturally feel significant because everyone needs you and everything's revolving around you. And the problem is with this firefighting, the reinforcing of this significance all the time, that everyone needs me, that can become a bit of a problem, can't it? So when you do step away from this and you do start implementing what you're talking about here, all of a sudden that aspect of significance can be massively affected, because you think, actually, I'm not as significant as what I was, and that's quite scary for many people. So what Tony Robbins will talk about is how you replace that significance and you do something else that gives you a different level of significance in another way, if that makes sense. So we've got to get over these. Sometimes these are internal things and that we're fighting and battling over that we might not even realize, but they start playing out with the
Yeah.
problems that we face in our business.
So true, so true. And it's these internal things that can actually massively affect the growth of your business. Because if you're not
Mm.
careful, they're the ways that you'll block your own success or sabotage yourself moving forward, just because you're trying to get that significance back. But it's in an area that's not needed for you anymore. It's about, just like what you've just described, about going and finding it elsewhere.
Yeah,
And your business
exactly.
needs that. It's about knowing that your role has changed within the business. And that's exciting. That's actually a really great place to be.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that sounds good. So let's imagine we've got over our significance problem, and we started to delegate, or we started to discern where we're not needed. Where do we go from here?
So this is where we start to embed the habits in ourselves. Because again, what I've seen time and time again is once we get to this place, we can start to try and get back, very similar to what we've just described. We try and get back to where we once were, because that's just the way our brains work. So this is where we start to really have to limit our distractions. So look at your diary, look at what you're working on, look at where you're finding that pull back, and it'll be to old ways of working. So you might not have that involvement with your team, but you might start to be involved in different areas of the business. Maybe the areas that are like your safe spaces, maybe they're places in your business that you just really enjoy working. And so you might start to find yourself getting involved in things that you don't really need to be, or just start to look at different areas of the business when really, again, that should be a team that are doing that. So start to really look at where you're getting distracted. And that's just you getting pulled back into old habits. So once you've nailed that, you can start to cement things. And it's at that place that you can really start to shift, right? Because you've got rid of all this old stuff that's holding you back. And the next place after that is to start making really deliberate actions, and decisions. Now, at this point, and we've talked about it and we've touched upon it a little bit already, is what will actually catapult my business forward? What am I avoiding that will move that needle forward? So it might be getting involved with different partnerships. It might be getting involved in different ambitions that you had with your business, and looking at why you can't actually do that. And some of the things, again, that we explore at this stage is what is it internally in your mindset that's actually stopping you there? Because there's always something like you might crop up with, oh, I need more finance, or I need more time, or any other things. But what is it actually that's stopping you? Like, have you got any other fear? And one of the things that I see time and time again is that fear of failure. So if I continue to grow the business, then am I actually going to be able to sustain it? And so that's another, the next battle that you have to overcome.
Yeah, that's interesting. Just listening to that, because I think a lot of business owners, everything you've said so far, you could probably do on your own. You can find that space, you can delegate, you can try and be disciplined and not go back to your old ways. But this bit that you've just said about identifying what that fear is very difficult to do on your own.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to get into your own head, isn't it, and work out like what is it that's holding you back? Because often they're unconscious things that we're doing that we don't quite realize. So I guess this is where someone like yourself, Barbara, comes in, someone experienced who's seen patterns of how people are reacting, and you can probably identify that fear of failure and other habits that people seem to have.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And likewise you can do it too. And the one thing that I always say, it's when we're running our business, it's like we're in a maze, and we're following the same track through that maze every single day, because we're creatures of habit, right? So I bet if we really thought about it, our days, your day from the second that you get up to the second that you go to bed, you'll probably make the same decisions or do the same things. There might be different things, every so often, but usually on an average Tuesday, you'll probably, carry on making the same decisions. So whilst we're doing that, and while we're going through our own maze and doing our own thing, it's very difficult to actually look at things from a different perspective. But when you're working with somebody like the two of us, well, what we do is we're able to just get on the bridge in the middle of the maze and start to see things differently. And that's gold, really. That is gold for anybody that's, and I'm sure you've been on the receiving end of that as well, as have I, where you're able to start to unpick things that you've might have embedded into your habits every single day, and all of a sudden you realize actually that's not serving me anymore. Why am I getting involved in that? Why am I going to that meeting when my team have got it sorted? Why am I always just getting stuck, I don't know, in my inbox, for instance? Or why am I always going to this area of the business when I really don't need to? And why am I actually avoiding having that meeting or having that conversation or actually tackling this massive big project? What is it that's holding me back? And you're right, those questions are, yeah, you can do it yourself, but we're so good at lying to ourselves, aren't we? We're so good at just, all the excuses will pop up and we'll believe them. We do need every so often somebody to just challenge us.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I do think there's some people that have got a natural ability to be able to step back, but I think the majority can't. I think you're right there. I mean, there's an interesting book comes to mind by a guy called Jocko Willink. He's like this ex-Navy SEAL, real tough, hard guy, but he always talks about this, about that, the business leader having to step back. And he gives an example of when he was on the battlefield They were being approached by enemies, and all his troops around him were really involved in the battle and just facing forward and engaging in a firefight. And he stopped shooting and got up and went up onto the hill and just stopped and surveyed what was going on. Everyone's like, "What are you doing? Like, let's get like the enemy's on top of us." But he recognized the need that actually, as a leader, I need to step back and actually take stock of what is actually the true picture of what's going on here. And he was able to elevate himself to that level to do that. And then, he realized he could flank the enemy and do some other stuff. But it's the same with what you've just described there, isn't it? As a leader, we've just got to be able to pull ourselves up a little bit out of the weeds, out of that firefighting, and have that overview. That's just really going to serve us so much better in business, isn't it?
Yeah, and know that that's not going to be an easy thing. It can be uncomfortable. All the stuff might just come to the surface in terms of, like the example that you've just shared. It will have been terrifying for that guy to go up on the hill. All of a sudden, he's leaving his troops behind. He's got, and they're shouting at him, and all the rest. Everything will have come up in that. You can imagine the chaos. But by doing that, again, is actually able to shift everything forward. He can see things from a completely different perspective. So as a leader, it can feel really hard. It can feel really hard just to remove yourself and just to survey the business from a completely different place, especially when there's so much going on. And, you'll have thoughts in your head that say, I need to be involved in this. And you'll have old mindset and sayings, things like, oh, I can't expect my team to do anything that I won't do. And, I've got to roll my sleeves up. I'm part of the team. All of that is great. But right now, you need to be up on the hill.
And
that's
so true. Yeah. It's so funny, those sayings that just roll off the tongue there, don't they? They're embedded into us sometimes, aren't they? And it almost feels like a weakness if we're not thinking like that. So yeah, that's really, really valuable there, Barbara. So if someone's listening to this, they're firefighting, they've learned a ton of stuff from this podcast, but maybe they want to analyze what sort of leader they are. What sort of have you got any support or help that might be able to help them assess what they're like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have an assessment that you can do for free. It's on my website and all the places that I tend to hang out, and it's called Confident Leader Assessment. And it takes 2 minutes. It's something like 20 questions, yes or no questions. And it'll just literally show you exactly where you're at and where you need to be focusing your attention. And so it'll cover things like time, mindset, balance, work-life balance, all of those important factors that they're so easy to just dismiss. We feel as though they're insignificant. They're things that'll take care of themselves or we'll do if we've got more time later on. But they actually make a massive impact on you and your business and your life as well. So yeah, it takes 2 minutes to do, and it'll give you a full report, and there's some extra bits and pieces that you'll get as a result of that and how to actually move forward.
That sounds awesome. All right. Well, thanks for that, Barbara. We're going to put that into the show notes. So anyone listening to that, just click on the show notes and you'll get the link to that assessment. Barbara, thanks so much for your time today. That was a really interesting conversation on leadership and firefighting and everything in between. So really appreciate you coming on.
You are welcome. Thanks so much, Greg.